One Saturday morning, coffee in hand, I stepped outside and froze. My vegetable garden, my cucumbers, tomatoes, that little green fence I'd put up was gone. In its place, a blacktop stretched across my yard, fresh asphalt still stinking in the air with white parking lines painted like it was a Walmart lot. 3 strange SUVs sat their engines ticking, crushing what used to be zucchini plants. I thought maybe I'd sleepwalked through a construction nightmare, but no, the homeowners association had paved over my land in the middle of the night. My property. My deed. Gone stolen, without so much as a knock on my door. One of the drivers rolled his window down and casually asked, "Is this reserved parking?" like I was some valet that wandered too close to his car. I stared at him then, at the line of SUVs flattening my garden, and said, "Yeah, reserved for the guy who actually pays property taxes here." He laughed like I'd told him a joke, turned up his music, and walked off toward the pool. By noon, I was on the phone with the HOA president, Marlene Queen of Pearls, and passive-aggressive tyranny. She didn't deny it. She didn't even flinch. "We've expanded the community lot for the benefit of all residents," she said in that flat, smug tone. The board voted. The matter's closed. I told her they'd paved 300 square feet of my deeded land. She snapped back. "The community comes first. Your land is part of the community." Then she hung up. I stood there staring at the silent phone, my sarcasm boiling over into something darker. Paperwork, yelling even sarcasm, wasn't going to cut it. I tried anyway. Dug out my survey maps, my plat records, every shred of proof that my yard was mine. I marched into the next HOA meeting, armed with evidence, thinking maybe, just maybe, logic would work. You'd have thought I was announcing war on NATO. Marlene clutched her pearls like I'd threatened to torch the clubhouse. The other board members, a lineup of tan retirees who all seemed to share the same pair of sunglasses, just sat there stone-faced. When I finished, Marlene gave me this thin politician smile and said, "We hear your concern, but the parking lot stays. Home values will rise. You should be proud to contribute." Proud. My dead zucchini sure didn't feel proud. I asked about compensation. She laughed, moved on to the next agenda item, new pool chairs, and the board voted unanimously. I walked out of there shaking, humiliated, furious, but also stuck. They'd taken my land, ignored my deed, laughed in my face. And what was I supposed to do? Sue Scream Nothing seemed big enough to fight them. That night, I stood in my driveway staring at the blacktop glistening under the streetlights. Cars pulled in and out like it was a mall lot, strangers tromping across my property without a second glance at the house. It wasn't just asphalt. It was an invasion. And I felt small, powerless, like they'd paved right over me too. For a minute I thought about giving up, just selling the house, walking away, pretending it never happened. Maybe I was crazy. Maybe I was the selfish one. Who fights their whole neighborhood over some dirt? But then I remembered something my grandfather once told me during a family feud over a fishing dock. If they want your land so bad, make them pay for it. I heard his voice as clear as if he were standing next to me, and suddenly the fear twisted into something sharper. They'd stolen my land. Fine. But if they wanted it, they were going to pay. By Tuesday morning, deliveries started showing up: steel posts, chain-link panels, a keypad entry system. Neighbors gawked as I unloaded hardware like I was fortifying for war. By Friday, a 12-foot gate stood across the fresh asphalt keypad, blinking like a sentinel. Professionally printed signs announced, "Private lot. $200 per space. Pay at gate." At first, people laughed, thought it was some sarcastic stunt. Then they realized the keypad didn't open without a code, and there I was standing with a receipt book. Begrudgingly, angrily, they paid. The look on Marlene's face when she drove by and saw residents fishing out credit cards to park on her new lot worth every penny in my pocket. Of course, she didn't take it lying down. The gate was vandalized with ketchup. Notes calling me community traitor were taped to the fence. Someone dumped rotten lettuce at my mailbox. HOA notices started arriving: violations for unauthorized structures. Commercial activity noise. I nearly laughed myself off the porch. They'd stolen my land, and now they were fining me for using it. I called Marlene, but she cut me off with a line so dripping with entitlement I nearly recorded it. The rules apply to everyone, except when the board decides otherwise. I realized then this wasn't about zucchini anymore. This was about control. That's when I hired a lawyer. Scott, property attorney sharp as a tack, laughed so hard when he heard my story he choked on his coffee. He told me what I already suspected: the HOA had zero authority over my lot. In fact, they owed me damages for trespass. And then he found the gold mine Marlene had filed for county reimbursement grants for the paving, claiming the land was common area. Fraud. Not civil criminal. Suddenly, I wasn't on defense anymore. I had leverage. Neighbors started showing up too quietly, slipping me cash, thanking me for giving their kids a safe place to park. Denise, 3 doors down, brought brownies and hugged me like I'd rescued her son from a fire. The HOA hated me, but some neighbors saw me as a lifeline. For the first time, I wasn't alone. I'd gone from powerless to holding the keys literally to the whole neighborhood. And Marlene couldn't stand it. The war escalated. A tow truck crept toward my gate one dawn. I stopped it with my deed and a camera. Marlene screamed in my face, and I told her calmly, "Smile for the judge." She nearly exploded on the spot. She started lobbying the zoning board to reclassify my land. Flyers appeared in mailboxes calling me a profiteer. Then came the protest, neighbors standing on my lawn with signs that read, "Parking is for all," and "Down with the toll troll." Marlene. Front and center pearls glinting like battle armor. I walked out with a cup of coffee and asked, "Who brought snacks?" Protests always need snacks. Some smirked, even while booing. But behind the theatrics, the HOA doubled down, passing emergency resolutions to tear down my gate, sending me daily violation letters, burying me in paperwork. It was classic HOA warfare, grind me into dust. But Scott was patient. He told me to keep every letter, every receipt, every photo of vandalism. "They'll bury themselves," he said. And then came the tipping point. A county inspector showed up, hard hat, clipboard in hand. He walked the perimeter, tapped the asphalt with his boot, frowned. This was laid without proper drainage permits. That's a violation. If this is private property, whoever authorized it could face significant fines. I laughed so hard he looked at me like I'd lost it. He didn't know how long I'd been waiting for those words. From that moment, Marlene's empire started to crumble. The fraudulent grant came to light. Neighbors who'd been silent suddenly whispered openly about her corruption. And then, Richard, an attorney representing several neighbors, came to my door with binders of evidence, financial mismanagement, inflated invoices, even whispers of kickbacks. They wanted to remove Marlene. And apparently my gate had made me the rallying point. Me, the guy who just wanted to grow zucchini. We organized, collected signatures, held meetings. At the next HOA gathering, I stood up and calmly laid out my deed, my receipts and copies of Marlene's bogus invoices. Gasps echoed through the room. For once, her pearls looked like they were choking her. The county investigation went public. Support surged. A special election was called, and for the first time in years, Marlene's grip loosened. She panicked, lashed out, tried everything to smear me. But it was too late. She wasn't finished, though. When she lost the election, she came after me, personally filed a lawsuit for defamation and emotional distress. A courtroom spectacle. Neighbors packed the benches. Reporters scribbled furiously. Marlene sat across from me, pearls intact, posture regal, like she was addressing a nation instead of a county judge. Her lawyer painted me as a greedy land baron extorting the community. I almost applauded. Then Scott stood and dismantled them piece by piece: survey maps, property records, vandalism photos, grant documents showing fraud. Each page landed like a hammer. Denise testified too, trembling at first, but growing stronger, describing years of intimidation and how Marlene had paved my land without consent. The judge's patience wore thinner by the minute. When it was my turn, I kept it simple. I told the story from the morning I walked out with coffee to the day I installed the gate. I said, if defending my property and charging fair market value for parking makes me a villain, then I guess I'm guilty. Even the judge chuckled. Marlene, though she cracked. Her story didn't line up. She grew hostile, defensive, cornered. When asked about the fraudulent grant, she muttered about clerical errors. No one bought it. Finally, the judge dismissed her lawsuit outright and recommended the county pursue restitution against her for fraud. Her face went white as chalk. In that moment, the queen lost her crown. The neighbors erupted outside the courthouse. Reporters shoved microphones at me asking how it felt. I just shrugged and said I just wanted to grow zucchini. That was the truth. I never wanted a war, never wanted to be a symbol. But when someone tries to pave over your life, you either let them or you fight back. And here's the lesson I learned: if you let bullies steal your ground, they'll never stop. Sometimes the only way to win is to build a gate and make them pay to cross it.